Today, on The American Land Seller, we're joined by Sam Bowers, a highly respected land expert, accredited land consultant, and dedicated community leader from Noonan, Georgia. With over 35 years in real estate and a lifetime rooted in agriculture, Sam has built an impressive career helping landowners navigate the ever-changing market. Sam's journey started with a background in agriculture economics from Abraham Baldwin Agriculture College and the University of Georgia. He launched his real estate career in 1988, earned his broker's license in 1991, and went on to found Bowers & Burns Real Estate Company in 2003. His leadership in the industry is undeniable. He is the immediate past president of the Realtors Land Institute, a past president of the Georgia chapter of RLI, and a lifetime $1 Million Club member. Sam's also been an Apex Award winner every single year since 2021 and was named Georgia Land Realtor of the Year in 2003. Beyond real estate, Sam is deeply involved in his community, having served as president of the Coweta County Farm Bureau, the Coweta Cattlemen's Association, and on the Coweta County Board of Zoning Appeals. His extensive leadership and market experience make him a wealth of knowledge for landowners, buyers, and investors alike. Today we'll discuss Sam's journey, his insights on Georgia's land market, and what buyers and sellers need to know in today's environment. Stay tuned for a great conversation with Sam Bowers right here on the American Land Seller Podcast.
Welcome to the American Land Seller Podcast with your host, Kobe Rickardson. Kobe is an accredited land consultant and multi-state land broker with High Point Land Company. Join us each week as we explore all things land. We bring you fresh insights and expert guests on sales, marketing, regulations, economics, and so much more. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms.
Okay, Kobe and our special guests, let's get started.
All right, welcome back to the Land Seller Podcast. Today, I'm excited to have Sam Bowers from Georgia on here today, immediate past president. Sam, how are you doing in Georgia today?
I'm doing great. I hope you are.
Oh, yeah, we are. We're doing great. Just finished up the land conference last week. So how I got to ask you, man, let's just start out. Like, I have been involved in RLI for probably 6 years now, 7 years. It's been a really great asset to my business. But man, you were the president last year. What's that like? Was that pretty good work for you?
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that experience. We've got some of the best people as members of our organization that you could ask for from anyone. Our people will bend over backwards to help you in any way, and they're bend over backwards to help each other, and that's the big thing. That's something that's very important about RLI. Is Dan Murphy mentioned this a couple of years ago that a rising tide lifts all ships, and I think that's very much the motto of RLI. Is yes, we're competitors, but if you're doing better, I'm doing better. So it was an honor to serve as a president for this organization, and I look forward to still being involved. I've been involved in RLI since 1998, 97, something like that, and so I'm still looking forward to being very involved in it, especially in our state chapter here in Georgia.
Yeah, it's kind of fun once you've done that. I served as like a regional governance, like a governor for Rotary years ago. And so it's kind of nice to be able to go back to your local board, and bring some of that knowledge back and maybe get back and plugged into your local and state boards, once you're done with that national deal. But so when you started, like what was your mission when you first decided, hey, I want to become the Realtors Land Institute president? Like what did you think that you were going to be able to change or improve upon when you started?
Well, I was following some pretty strong presidents. We got Renee Harvey, Dean Saunders, Luke Worrell. And, there was a lot of great things, and there's a lot of great things going on with RLI. And I'm a very behind the scene person. I wanted to look at more of operations and making sure we had everything in place moving forward in the future, because I think RLI is at a crossroads of growth that is coming. We grew a lot during COVID, but I think that growth is going to continue. And I just wanted to make sure that we had policies and procedures, and not the real glamorous stuff, but more of the bookkeeping stuff in place, and that we reviewed all that and make sure that it was ready for Dan and Jeff to step in and take off with this thing and grow us even more.
Yeah, that's I think that we've seen it over the last probably 6-7 years of just the kind of behind the scenes reorganization. And I think that kind of culminated with you with some like big steps on like taking those steps to redo the education and stuff like that. That kind of just started, I don't know, the year before or right around, but you're in that leadership chain, when that started. So yeah, it's there was a lot going on when you were president-elect and stuff like that. With the redoing of the website and all that kind of stuff. What kind of hours did you have to put into this? I mean, you're running a business too on,
Well, I'm fortunate. I've got a partner that he and I have been partners since 2003 when we started our company. And so that was a big help. But, the hours, Aubrey and I had a phone call every Wednesday morning. It was a set thing that every Wednesday morning through the year I was president, we called, went over what was going on, basically keeping each other in the loop. Then, of course, we had our executive board meetings and our regular board meetings monthly. So to be honest with you, I didn't really keep up with the timeline of how much time it took. It was a commitment, but it was not the time-consuming thing that people would think it is, because of the way, we had a phone call every Wednesday morning at 9:00. So I knew for an hour I was going to be tied up on Wednesday morning. Then I knew when the board meetings were. And then we traveled some, going to speak to groups. So, but with my partner here to hold down the fort, it worked out well.
What's really cool though, that you guys work together like that. He let you have that time to go invest into the real estate world. Like when we started our venture 8 years ago, I kind of came into real estate a little bit different. I was an investor and property owner, and really had a hard time finding that solution for when I was buying and selling stuff. And so I kind of came into it with the idea that I was going to change the industry, in my area, at least. And so the investment that you made going into, RLI and investing into that organization as a leader is much appreciated, I know, by those of us that, and again, it did make an impact on the industry, because it just seems to me like land, real estate is just getting better and better and better, and more people are joining RLI, and it's kind of been a fun thing to watch. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, a guy that we're doing a valuation on his properties. And he said, man, there's an awful lot of land professionals anymore. He goes, seemed like when he was first getting into the business, there was like one guy and everybody kind of went to him. And he's like, now you throw a stick and you can find a land professional. What kind of comment would you say? Are you weary? Are you excited to see more and more people picking that? Kind of seems like that's nationwide, that there's more and more folks that are kind of educating themselves and getting themselves into the land world. Is that kind of exciting or kind of weary for you? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm pretty excited about it. I think that that it's a good thing to get people involved in a business and get them educated and have them knowledgeable, because the ones that are good at it, are knowledgeable at it, will have staying power. The ones that don't, the market will roll them out. I had an old real estate man tell me many years ago, he had been selling real estate for a long time. And whenever anybody told him, said, "What do you think about me getting in the real estate business?" He'd say, "Boy, you just jump right on in." You'll find out real fast if it's for you. But yeah, there are a lot more agents involved that are specializing in land sales. And, that's just the nature of the beast. When early on in my career, there was, very few people. It was mostly foresters that did forestry and land sales that were primarily doing that. Now, I started with a real estate company in the 80s that we did a lot of land back then. We did a lot of farmland. We did, for us, farmland and transitional land. And so, but it's good to see a younger generation that are stepping up and getting involved in the land business. And, it's keeping old guys like me having to keep our game up. So I see it as a good thing. I think it's good for the market, and I think it's good for the business.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think it is good for the business, and I know myself, if it wasn't for people competing against me, I might get complacent and a little bit lazy. So it's fun to wake up every day wondering, what new thing we're gonna, we're gonna come up with to improve our clients' experience. And so, but yeah, no. If you don't mind, let's just take a quick break, and
Sure.
We'll be right back. The American Land Seller Podcast is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit LandHub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. LandHub.com, where your land journey begins. All right, we're back, and we're back with Sam Bowers from Georgia. Sam, we're talking just a little bit during the break, kind of about like how you got started in real estate. I think people would be fascinated to know, at a certain point, you had to make a decision to stick with the land stuff or kind of keep going with the company that you were with to a real residential focus. Talk just a little bit about your origin story and how you kind of got into this industry, and you were a farmer. You come from a farm ranch background, kind of similar to me. So I think it's always fun to see how do you get from farm ranch to real estate and specifically land.
Well, basically I grew up on a cattle ranch, registered Charolais cattle, and then we transitioned to commercial cattle. I've even dairied. We row cropped corn, soybeans, and wheat. And before I went off to college, my dad told me, "Son, you're going to have to find something else to do besides farming." It was in the downspin of in our area. And so I went to Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College and then to the University of Georgia. I majored in ag economics and took some real estate courses while I was at the University of Georgia. And it's funny, my dad got his real estate license in 1972 as a hobby. And as a sign of the farming, he then had to start selling real estate part-time to support his farming habit. And before it was over with, he had to sell real estate full-time to support his farming habit. So I basically followed him. After school, I put a little small desk in his office in the corner, and I worked in his office for 3 or 4 years at the same company before I moved into my own little office. And so that was how I got started in real estate business back in the 80s.
It's always great to have a good mentor in this business.
Yes.
I have a friend of mine that is considering getting into real estate, and I've been really trying to get him to understand, like, this is not, it's not just like you can show up Monday at 10 and be done at noon and make $1 million a month. It's a lot of work that goes into it. So,
well, my wife refers to the real estate business as my mistress, because she feels like that she's my wife, but I also have a mistress, and that's real estate, because especially early on, it consumed a lot of time.
Well, and I think you'd agree. The good ones are the ones that are always like, there's really no schedule. I finally, I learned from a real estate agent a couple of years ago or when I first got started, that everything goes on your calendar. That way everything's an appointment, and so if the kids got soccer, then that's an appointment.
Oh yeah.
If your wife wants to go, out for dinner, then she puts it on your calendar. That's an appointment, and the calendar is sacred, and so that's kind of the rule when we first started with my wife, was that, okay, that if you want to put something on there and it's open, then put it on there. And then that's the sacred time, as long as you don't abuse that. But
right.
But no, it works out pretty good. So you come from farming, like you always specialized in like land, like farm, ranch, that kind of stuff? Or did you go through a time, like when I first started, I started residential because I started as my own, like broker myself, and started my own office. I didn't have anybody to mentor me or anything, which I would not recommend to anybody I had friends with. So you kind of, is that something you just started out in that specialty, or did you?
No, in the beginning it was, I'd sell anything. It didn't matter, because I was starting, trying to make a living.
Right.
And, over time it evolved into more of a specialty. The company I was with, the only real estate company outside of mine that I've ever been with, I was with for 15 years.
Sure.
And our focus there became a lot of rural land development. We did a lot of mini farms. We did state lot. And that really honed me more into land sales. And then in the early 2000s is when we started Bowers and Burns, and that was because of the company. That company had grown in size. Parks and Motley had grown to the size that for them to survive, they had to go more residential based. And so the two guys that owned it went and talked to them. They completely understood and were very supportive. And so my partner and I left in October of 2003, and have been primarily focused on land and homes and acreage. In our area, we don't really have ag land anymore because of most of the ag land in Georgia is in South Georgia, in the coastal plain area. We're in the Piedmont region of Georgia. Most of our land is either rec /timberland, or transitional land. This year we tracked to people that are looking to build a home. It's what we call end users. So we've seen the end user market get a lot stronger. It started during COVID, and people looking to buy to move out of the cities. So that's a lot of our business now is either rec land, transitional, or people buying land to build a home on. Is what primarily it is.
Yeah. So this is always fascinating to me too, because like farms, ranches, recreational property, you say those things, and then every different region or every different actually state kind of has a different idea of what that is. So a recreational property, are you talking more of acreage for hunting, or like for when you say recreational
hunting.
Property, what do you
Hunting.
mean for that? Yeah.
It's primarily for hunting. Yeah.
Sure. What size of a property do you guys consider kind of average for that? Or does
most of ours are going to be 100 acres and up. A large parcel here would be 400 or 500 acres. A good size parcel here would be 1,000 acres. But most of our sales are probably going to be between 100 and 200 acres.
Yeah, it's and recreational property. I mean, realistically, that has become like a really interesting niche in the land market because that's everything from campgrounds to, trails for or the UTVs to hunting to, like there's all kinds of different stuff going on inside that particular box, which is a fairly new, it's a fairly new kind of property type. I think, it's back in the late 90s, early 2000s when that kind of first started popping up.
Yeah. What we look at is our, if you wanted to paint a picture of our typical buyer, they're going to live within 60 to 80 mile radius of the property. Instead of them going to the panhandle and buying a beach house, they're buying 100, 200 acres of land. They probably have preteen to very early teen kids, and they know those kids are going to be headed off to college here soon. So they want somewhere they can spend their weekends on or evenings with their kids, hunting, riding four-wheelers, fishing, to spend time with them before they go off to school, is what our typical buyer is. They're most likely coming out of Atlanta, Georgia, or Columbus, Georgia, and they want it where they can drive to it in an hour to an hour and a half.
Sure. And so you didn't have, we had a certain, during COVID in our area, we had California and Colorado folks that were kind of moving in. Did you have any of that? I called them jokingly political refugees or whatever, but did you have any of that kind of
very little
migration in your area?
Yeah.
No.
Ours was more out of the city of Atlanta.
Sure.
Now, a lot of people looking for family compounds. They want a place that they could build a house and then their kids could build homes on.
Sure.
And so that's backed off a little bit now, but that was the strongest demand. The latter part of COVID was, hey, I need property I can build 3 houses on or 4 houses on. I want to build my house and my kids are going to build, and they're, basically looking for a family compound.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I mean, that's a lot of people were looking for acreages during COVID because they, especially in the cities, because, they was kind of sucked to be in an apartment the whole time going on.
Being penned in, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, no. So zoning down where you're at, when you're are you kind of just selling track by track, or are there people still that have kind of some larger parcels that you're able to kind of divide down and or is it kind of just, whatever comes up, you sell it as a big tract?
No, we always evaluate stuff from what we call HBU, higher and better use.
Sure.
And we'll offer taking something all the way to preliminary plat for an owner, because our company is primarily an owner representation. We are more of a listing company than we are representing buyers.
Sure.
And so what's the best return for our seller here? And so, we've got one timber investment fund that we do division of property for. And then the other ones that, they'll only sell as whole tracts. So it all depends on what our sellers are wanting, because we'll lay everything out on the table and then, it's their property and we let them pick which avenue they want to go down. So we do some zoning, some working with engineers, land planners. But again, it depends on how far the sellers want to go with it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. I just love learning about different people and what they're doing in different parts of the country. That's one of the great things about the Realtors Land Institute, is getting to be friends with a bunch of people from all over that kind of do weird, totally different things than what I do. So
well, what I found was really cool, because a couple of times during the last year, I was asked to speak to groups and talk more from an economic standpoint. And so what I would do is I would call around the country. I think I called you.
Yeah,
one of them.
Once.
And I would ask every member the exact same question. And it was a great way to realize that how different our business is, but how similar our business is all across the country, because there are some very unique niches in the land business, and but it is even as big as this country is, it all boils down to, it seems like, the same basics. of land sales.
No, it's definitely an interesting business, but we're going to take a quick break, and if you got some time, man, we're going to do one more segment, but we will be right back.
Land isn't just dirt. It's where memories are made, families are raised, and livelihoods are built. But when it comes time to sell or buy, the weight of the decision is heavy. Where do you even start? Who can you trust to guide you? For too long, land transactions have been treated like a simple exchange. Numbers on a paper, a signature on a line. But it's more than that. At High Point Land Company, we don't just list land. We walk it, we learn its story, and we find the right buyer who understands its worth. You are not just another deal. You are the steward of something bigger. And we're here to help you navigate every step of the way. When it's time to sell, when it's time to buy, we're here. Because land is more than just land. It's your legacy.
All right, we're back with Sam Bowers from Bowers and Burns Real Estate. Sam, we're talking just a little bit during the break about I asked you to maybe put your crystal ball together after, I don't know how many times I've thrown mine up against the wall, but I just kind of want to get your feeling on what your guys are seeing down there as far as where the market's going this year. We just had the land conference, so we kind of had a feel from them, but are you bullish? Are you bearish? What are you kind of thinking?
I don't know. And that's coming from somebody with an economics background. All right. Well, here's my, whenever I look at something, if you ever studied economics, you know what the bell curve is. Sure. Bell curve is supply and demand.
Yep.
And, I would have thought, last year that interest rates would have had a big impact on land sales. They had none. We didn't see any impact on land sales from interest rates going up. One thing that has really surprised me is the amount of cash that's out there. Yeah. Most of the larger transactions that we were doing last year, there was no leverage used. There was no borrowed money. So I'm not sure where to go with that. So coming out of the gate this year, right now I can tell you that supply of land on market is lower now than it was this time last year. And if you look at supply and demand and how that's going to impact price, it's going to take a big adjustment in the market, I think, to hit prices right now because of the low supply. Yeah. Now other parts of the country, there's outside influences, ag land. Commodity prices, input costs. I mean, I know last year they were seeing some shifts in downturn, but just looking at Georgia, in our area, supply is so tight, the demand is still there. We're doing more 1031 tax exchanges last year than we've done in a good while. I don't know if all this cash is coming from people liquidating equities. Because historically land has been used as a hedge on inflation. So I'm going to just qualify that my crystal ball has a crack in it. I've tried to put a Band-Aid on it, but it's foggy too. So it's, there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty in the country. And so I'm a little concerned about the latter part of this year. The last quarter, and I guess that's more from an inflation standpoint. Inflation, I think, has ticked up a little bit here recently. where does that go? I don't know. Hopefully politically they could maybe do something to get gas and oil prices down. That would a direct shot in the arm for the economy if we could drive down the cost of gasoline and diesel fuel. So all we're seeing right now is the price in our area is that we think prices are going to hold where they're at. We may see a little bit more days on market, but I don't think it'll be much because the demand is there. And when we're bringing land to the market every week, and it's drawing a lot of interest. So, when you get outside the Southeast and you get more up in your area and into the Midwest and ag land, especially in the Midwest, my goodness, what some of that ag land was bringing, it was that sustainable. When I talked to people at the end of last year, that it was backing off because the commodities and input costs it wasn't balancing out. So, but man, people are still moving from transitional land standpoint. The Southeast, they're still building houses. We have a housing shortage in the U.S. That I don't know how we're going to catch up. And so, with that being said, I think I don't see a big disruptor right now unless inflation just gets completely out of control.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you on that. I think the disruptor in my area is going to be how much land's going to be available coming up, just because the owners of the property that, most of the farms and stuff in Nebraska, Kansas are owned by, 70 plus year olds. And so I think there's an inevitability on the fact that that's going to change hands. And so if we get a large supply on the market all at the same time, and then again, they're still aggressively pricing stuff, right? And we're just not seeing that fight for it. If it's priced right, it's selling. But I just last week on my podcast had a big producer from my area talking about he's on the sidelines as a producer. Producers are sitting it out until land prices come down a little bit. And his estimation is we're talking $200 to $2,500 over what he can pencil out, as a producer and make it make sense. So he says he's renting right now and happy to do so. And, hopes to be able to, because his family's growing, hopes to be able to get back in it soon. But yeah, that to me is going to be the big thing, is how much property is going to come on the market or change hands in the next probably five years or so.
And that's interesting. I remember you bringing that up when I called you last year, and that's very interesting that y'all know within a time period there's going to be a large influx of, most likely an influx of property coming on the market, and it would be interesting to see how that plays out over time.
Well, and what really fascinated me recently, I've had several calls from people that I honestly, Sam, never thought would ever want to sell. It's longtime family land. They've been able to maintain it up until this far. And then all of a sudden, Nebraska's property taxes are a real big problem because our education is tied to property taxes. And so our taxes are extremely high. And so a lot of people they're calling and they're saying, you know what, we feel like the market's probably going to go another way someday, and we want to get out while it's at least pretty good, And so that's been pretty shocking to me, is just how many families that have been dedicated to keeping the family farm, are looking to liquidate it and do something else with the money.
But the land prices we're seeing, that doesn't surprise me. And we did see that for a bit. Probably the first part of this year, it was very noticeable. It was almost like people had been sitting on this property and they felt like the train was leaving the station on these higher prices. And they wanted to hop on that train before it got out of the station. Because there was a period there in January where I had 3 different landowners contact us about property that it whatnot. None of them had to sell.
Sure.
But they felt like that the market had probably crest, and they wanted to make sure that they got in on that crest instead of heading down toward a trough. Now, I don't know how much of a trough we're going to see, but that was a mentality we were seeing from sellers there, especially in January.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of those things too, that's smart, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. And we went through something similar. My wife and I built, 3 Remax franchises up, and got to the point where we were in a footprint where several big companies wanted, and so we had the opportunity to sell. I told her, I was like, we probably ought to do it, because when I want to sell it, nobody's going to want it. It's not like, and so again, it's, if you're under that mindset of, you got to sell it when you can, not when you need to, is probably the smart play. But,
well, and from a real estate investment standpoint, older gentleman tell me one day, he said, son, you don't ever go broke making a profit.
That's true.
And and he'd been developing since after World War II.
Oh.
And he said, if you've got a good deal and offered a good deal and you can make a profit, it's probably time going to the next deal.
Yeah.
So, it was, well, interest rates were messing around with, nobody knew what was happening after, the election just taking place. So there was even more uncertainty then. And so people were like, we probably ought to if we're going to do something, we probably ought to do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a crazy world. So what's next for you, Sam? Like, you've been the president. Are you going to take a break and just sell real estate for a while? Or are you going to be the NAR president someday, or what's the future home for you?
Well, I don't know.
Congressman from Georgia?
No. I have no interest in politics whatsoever. I can go ahead and put a hard no on that. My wife asked me the same question. I told her, well, I need to sell real estate for a while. And, but I think it's very important for us to give back to the organizations that mean a lot to us. I probably will skip town for a year or so after I get wound up this year, but I'll be back because I think it's important to give back, and serving on committees and again, I still serve on the board for our state chapter. I'm the treasurer for Georgia, and it's been exciting to watch our chapters grow and nationally. And, even the Southeast chapter, we're now doing a big land conference every year. This year it'll be in Chattanooga. And so, basically the chapters of the Southeast get together and put these things on. And so, I want to sell some real estate and stay involved in RLI. And we'll see what comes after that. But the politics thing, I can go ahead and put a hard no on. So.
You're more of a heckler than
yeah, my filter doesn't work too well when it comes to certain things. So.
Might be the perfect time for that kind of campaign. But
yeah.
How do folks get a hold of you, Sam? We'll put your website, your whatever you want us to, in the notes down below on all the podcast information. But how do they get a hold of you?
Well, bowersandburns.com is our website. You can email me at sbowers@bowersandburns.com. I'm still old school. I like talking on the telephone. You're welcome to call me. But email me, any way I can help, I'll be glad to. And, one quick pitch on this website, that's one thing with RLI, being able to talk to guys like you. We're looking to reevaluate our website and make changes and updates, because it goes back to you're talking about all the new people getting in the land sale business. You got to stay competitive. And so that's part of us working through our websites now and looking at how to change them, how to make them better. And so, they can get in touch with me at any of those spots, and I'll be glad to help any way we can.
Yeah, it's fun. Like going around the RLI conferences and stuff. It's that's where you kind of see what's out there. I mean, integrations of maps and videos and being able to, like with Land ID and some of these other sponsors that we have for RLI, to be able to even do the, like the bird's eye view type of photography and things like that. It's just unreal.
When I started our photos from the aerial photos, I could go to the local airport and I could get a Piper Cub for an hour and a half for $150. And so me, that pilot, and a 35 millimeter camera would go fly property. That's how we used to do aerial photos.
That now I have like 5 different drones.
I know. Yeah. I've got drones. The quality of aerial photos we have now is just off the chart. But this technology stuff, and I encourage people, if you're in the real estate business, I don't care how long you've been in it, keep learning, because it's always changing. I mean, I'm in a 10-week program now. I went back to college with a 10-week program for digital marketing, because I had all these people talking about SEOs and all that stuff about digital marketing. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? And so just don't ever stop learning. Yeah, because it is always changing.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time today. Pretty cool stuff that we had to talk about. So always looking forward to seeing you when we get a chance to in the future. But thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yep. All right, everybody. That's it for today. We will see you all down the road.
As we wrap up another episode of the American Land Seller Podcast, thank you for joining us. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms. If you would be so kind and you enjoyed today's insights, please like, subscribe, rate, follow, and review us on whatever app you are listening or watching on. Connect with us on social media for updates. Until next week, Kobe wishes you success in your land endeavors. God bless you and have a great week.
The American Land Seller is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. Are you in the market for the perfect piece of land? Look no further than LandHub.com, your solution to the biggest challenges facing land buyers and sellers today. At LandHub, we're revolutionizing land transactions by effectively connecting buyers and sellers. Say goodbye to the struggle of finding or marketing land for sale. We understand the power of new media marketing, leveraging social media and targeted ads to bring together the ideal audience for all property types. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit landhub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. Landhub.com, where your land journey begins. And High Point Land Company. When it comes to buying and selling land, High Point Land Company sets the standard for excellence across the Midwest and beyond. Our expert land specialists bring unmatched market knowledge and a personal touch to every single transaction. Whether it's a farm, ranch, recreational, or even investment property, we provide the expertise and integrity you can trust. Looking to buy or sell? We offer a premier selection of properties and a marketing strategy designed to get you results. From productive farmland to recreational retreats, we help you maximize your investment. Visit www.highpointlandcompany.com today and experience the difference. High Point Land Company, a true leader in land sales.